Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we got a bunch of great Commanders rumors and news coverage coming at your way here over the next hour or so. And we got a bunch of draft stuff to talk about today. We got some draft rumors to talk about in our first segment today. Then we'll go into my latest 7-round Commanders mock draft, where I've got another trade down scenario for the Washington Commanders on this week's mock. And then I'll be answering your questions on the Commanders Report mailbag later today. Now, I want to welcome in our producer today. Joey is not our producer today. We actually have an Eagles fan infiltrating our live stream today. Reed, producer Reed is here, and he is a big Eagles fan. So if you want to boo the Eagles, boo Reed in the chat. He's a good sport. Type those boos in the chat. And, Reed, you guys got your Super Bowl last year. I'm glad you guys got your Super Bowl in last year because, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, they're about to run this division for the next decade.
Run the division.
Jaden Daniels is going to be Jalen Hurts' daddy, all right? I think we all know it. And, I think that after this offseason, they're going to make a trade for an edge rusher, and, their defense is going to be a lot better. And you were lucky you got that Super Bowl championship last year because that's going to be the last one you get for a while there, pal.
Last one is crazy. That's crazy. I am scared of the Commanders. I will admit that. The Commanders look very, very strong. Going from picking number 3, it's 3, right?
2. They drafted 2 last year.
You drafted 2. Drafted 2, and then making it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
That's extremely impressive.
Yep.
Very rare, very unheard of. That takes a really good team, a really good squad. I'm interested to see what happens next year.
It's going to be a great rivalry, I think, over the next several years here.
The best football right now being played in the NFL is the NFC East.
Yeah, NFC North, I think, has a chance to be really good next year as well. But, this is definitely going to be a good division moving forward, especially with the 2 teams at the top. And unfortunately for your birds, I think that the Commanders are going to be the kings of this division for many, many years to come. All right, man, so get those boos in the chat. Boo Reed, boo the Eagles, F the Eagles in the chat. We got almost 100 people in the chat room already here on Commanders Report Live. And if you guys want to get those super chats in today, producer Reed, who is an Eagles fan, by the way, says he will do a boot at the end of today's live stream if we can get to $100 total in super chats, all right? So all it takes is one $100 super chat. All it takes. One $100 super chat, and you make the Eagles fan chug, all right? So make it happen today, guys. Get those super chats in. And, of course, you guys can get your questions in for the mailbag today. You guys can use hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat, or you guys can super chat to get your Commanders questions on the show. For today's mailbag segment that's going to be at the end of the show. So if you got questions about the draft, we're now 2 weeks away from the start of the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay. Things are really starting to get tight here. Things are really going to start ramping up in terms of the draft rumors. So buckle your seatbelts. If you've got any questions about surrounding trades, surrounding the draft, surrounding free agency, surrounding whatever you guys want, make sure you guys get those questions down there in the live chat room. Hashtag Commanders or super chat to get on today's stream. And then also along with if we get to $100 today, Reed will be doing a boot. But if we get to $50 total today, we will add 15 extra minutes to the end of the live show to talk Commanders football with you guys, talk about the draft, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So get those super chats in, get those questions in so you can get on the show today. We greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. And then I do want to plug our NFL Draft channel here at Chat Sports. I'm doing a bunch of content on there throughout draft season, of course, with 2 weeks left to go. I'm going to be putting out my final 2 mock drafts here over the next 2 weeks. And then also I'm going to be putting out some of the rest of the positional rankings that I have for this year's NFL Draft class, my final big board, and then, of course, my Sperry Psychos list is going to be coming up in the weeks to come as well. So you guys can check out the NFL Draft channel here at Chat Sports for more NFL Draft content from me outside of this channel. So before we get into our first segment today, make sure you guys type those me's down there in the comments section to get us going today for a shout-out here. Well, and while you guys get those me's in there, our live poll today was the 4 players that are available for the Commanders at pick 29. Who are you taking? So you got Nick Emenwari, the safety, Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher, Donovan Ezeraku, the edge out of Boston College, or Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Right now, the edge rushers are leading the way. Shamar Stewart with 31% of the vote, but 25% of the vote goes to Eamon and Ezaraku. So pretty good question here, because it seems like we have a difference of opinion. Personally, well, actually, I'm going to be revealing who I would personally take at this spot if I were the Washington Commanders on our first segment today. So let's give some shout-outs here. We've got Jasmine here. We got Richard Barker. We got my lovely girlfriend Cassie Voth watching from home. We've got Mac Battle. We've got Tommy T. We got Jasmine Gray. We got JP. We've got Green T. We've got Richard Barker. Abdul is here. We got Jacoby, NFL Prods 99. We got a good crew of Commanders fans here ready to talk some Commanders football here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. So without further ado here, Mr. Reed, whenever you're ready, we can get into our first segment of the day here, which is kind of a fun segment here, guys, because I'm going to be going into the 5 players that I think that they, have a chance to be taken by the Commanders in round 1 that I wouldn't be happy with, all right? And the first name on this list is going to surprise a lot of people in this chat room, all right? So before we get into that here, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon, like the stream. We got 87 people watching live. Type those me's, all that great stuff. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. And with that, let's get into our first segment of the day, which is round 1 crash out prospects for your Washington Commanders. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today, we're 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL Draft, round 1 there in Green Bay. And today I'm going to be breaking down 5 players that I wouldn't be too thrilled with if the Washington Commanders end up taking them with their first overall selection in this year's draft class. Before we get into my crash out prospects in round 1 for the Washington Commanders today, let me know down there in the comments section, which players do you really hope Washington does not take in round 1? Which player or players do you really hope the Commanders pass on at number 29 overall? Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section. And of course, throughout today's show, I'm going to be letting you guys know the 5 players that I really do not want the Commanders to take. So we will start here with one that I think is actually relatively popular among Commanders fans, and that is Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. Now, Stewart is an athletic freak, and he does technically, theoretically, have high upside as a defensive end type of edge rusher. But the reason why I would crash out if it's Shamar Stewart is because he's a big-bodied, run-defending type of defensive end, and the Washington Commanders already have a bunch of those on their roster. In my opinion, the Commanders need more of a true designated pass rusher to really get after quarterbacks. And, with respect to Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, all these guys are more run stuffing. They're more, they're more early down type of defensive ends that do a good job setting the edge, do a good job holding blocks and anchoring and doing all this different stuff. But they're not really pass rushing specialists. And, I think Shamar Stewart is somebody that fits more of that Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell type of mold, is kind of like a bigger guy that's good against the run as opposed to somebody that's going to get after quarterbacks. And like I talked about, guys, I think that the number one need after Dante Fowler Jr. left in free agency this year is you got to get your pass rushing specialist, because that's who Dante Fowler Jr. was for this team last year in this edge rusher rotation. And he had 10.5 sacks last year. I mean, that is significant production right there from the edge in terms of pass rushing. And, you're going to have to replace that with somebody in this year's draft class or via trade. We'll see what happens with Trey Hendrickson or maybe even TJ Watt in the days and weeks to come. But, you have to replace Dante Fowler Jr.'s production in terms of the pass rush. And I just don't see Shamar Stewart doing that, especially in year 1 of his NFL career. He only had 4.5 total sacks in college. All right, and we're projecting him to be the number 1 edge rusher in year 1 for the Washington Commanders in a year where they are trying to win a Super Bowl this year in Jaden Daniels' sophomore season. I mean, I just don't know if I see the projection there for him to make that big of a leap and be that much better of a pass rusher in the pros, especially in his first year. I think that right now, when you look at what the Commanders need, they need a more true pass rushing type of talent. And even if they have to wait for day 2 to get a guy like that to be your designated pass rusher like Dante Fowler Jr. was for you last year, I think that would be a better pick than taking Shamar Stewart, which would kind of lead to some redundancy at the edge rusher position here in Washington. Then another guy that I think that, kind of goes into the same category as Shamar Stewart, and another name that might surprise some people here is Mykel Williams out of Georgia. Now, Williams, like Stewart, really good run defender. In fact, I actually think Williams is the better overall prospect because I think he's the better overall run defender. He was really a run defending specialist there with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities to truly rush the passer. I think I'd be happier with Mykel Williams than I would with Shamar Stewart because I think that Williams might have a little bit more upside to have that breakout season with the Washington Commanders next year if he ends up being the pick. But he would have a similar profile to Shamar Stewart where they're both kind of run defending type of bigger defensive ends and, with limited pass rushing production in college. I want somebody that I can trust to get after quarterbacks on day one of their NFL career because that's what this defense desperately needs at this point. And I don't think Shamar Stewart or Mykel Williams, although they're good players and good prospects, I'm not sure if they necessarily fit the bill for what the Washington Commanders are looking for at the position, especially if they're going to be taking them in round one. Then we get to somebody here that I would really not be happy with, and that is UCLA's Oluwafemi Oladejo, the edge rusher out of UCLA. Now, I like the player, all right? I want to make that abundantly clear. I like Oladejo as a player, just not in round one. If they take him in round one, I will be pretty disappointed. And, it is a possibility here, guys, because the Commanders have shown a lot of interest in him. And during the draft process, they've met with him multiple times. Top 30 visit in Washington. And even, people that I respect in the NFL draft space, like Warren Sharp, has projected the Washington Commanders to take him at number 29 overall. Now, like I said, I like the player. I like Oladejo as a projected kind of developmental type of edge rusher. I think that he's got some really nice physical tools. Last year, he converted from off-ball linebacker to outside linebacker in terms of an edge and rushing the passer more consistently, and he's still pretty raw. He still needs to develop. I think he made some really good steps last year in the first year of him really rushing the passer. I think he's got some really great arm length. I think that he's got the potential to be a really good designated pass rusher as an outside linebacker type in the National Football League, and I think that he could help the Washington Commanders if he is a round 3 pick, but I think that round 1 is a bit rich for me, and I think that you can get other players to help your football team and still get Oladejo later in the draft if this is really the edge rusher that you want to go target. So when it comes to the guys in round 1 that I would be targeting if I were the Washington Commanders, if Mike Green or James Pierce Jr. end up falling to you, I think that that's the pick, all right? I think that, those two guys are top 3 edge rushers on film in this year's class. Mike Green, I have a top 10 grade on, but he has some sexual assault history kind of things, and he might fall because of that. James Pierce Jr. also has behavior and personality kind of issues, some red flags that have popped up. It's not impossible that one of those guys does fall in the NFL draft, and if you feel good enough about the person that you're getting, then maybe you take the leap and you take them at number 29. But the guy that I think is more likely to fall to the Washington Commanders at number 29, I actually think he will be available for them, is Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College, who had 14.5 sacks for Boston College last year. And he's not necessarily the most physically gifted guy in the world. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a top 10 edge rusher on the planet, but I think he's going to be somebody that can be a designated pass rusher for you on day one, can win in a bunch of different ways, has a bunch of different pass rush moves at his disposal, and the production of 14.5 sacks last year with Boston College speaks for itself. So as opposed to Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart, who are more run-defending type of edge rushers, Ezeraku gets after quarterbacks, so that would be the pick that I would take if I were the Washington Commanders at number 29. So what say you guys? Would you be cool with taking Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College at number 29? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Game Time. And while I'm talking about Game Time today, give me a yes or a no for today's pinned question. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Game Time. And recently, producer Joey and myself took in a Rangers game here at Globe Life Park in Arlington a couple weekends ago to watch Jacob deGrom pitch against the Boston Red Sox in a game that the Rangers ended up winning. And thanks to Game Time, we were able to save money on those tickets so we could splurge a little bit more at the game itself. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Commander's Report by Chat Sports and makes getting tickets to any event faster and easier. prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Go watch the Washington Nationals play all season long at beautiful Nationals Park to take in the beauty of the game while not breaking the bank on great seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. That's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS down there in the comments section. CHATSPORTS, one word, all caps, for $20 off that first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The next guy on my list here, guys, is somebody that I actually think has a pretty darn good chance of being taken in round one, so get your popcorn ready. It's Nick Emmanwori, the safety out of South Carolina. Now, the physical profile, I think, is what Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn really look for in their strong safety, all right? I think on paper, Emmanwori appears to be the perfect replacement from a physical standpoint when it comes to replacing Jeremy Chinn, who left the Commanders this offseason for the Las Vegas Raiders in NFL free agency. You take a look at Jeremy Chinn's profile, his relative athletic score. He had a perfect 10 out of 10 coming out of Southern Illinois. Ran a 4.45 at his size at 221 pounds. I mean, this guy obviously is an absolute freak, which is why the Commanders ended up signing him last year in free agency and started him as their starting strong safety. And then Nick Emmanwori, I mean, you look at his relative athletic score, I mean, it's like two peas in a pod here. You got 10 perfect 10 out of 10s here of talking about the physical profiles, and Emmanwori was even faster than Jeremy Chinn was, running at 4.38 at 220 pounds. So Emmanwori is an absolute combine freak. We kind of knew that when he went into it, but he even exceeded those expectations. So he is an absolute physical specimen. But I have two issues specifically with the Commanders pursuing him, especially in round one without trading down. Number one, he's still pretty raw on tape, and I think that the Commanders need somebody that's more ready to play right now. I think Emmanwori is somebody that needs a little bit of time to develop, and you don't want to put too much on his plate right away, especially if you're going to be moving him from free safety, where he played most of his college snaps, to strong safety, which is what the Commanders would be asking him to do in year one. I still think that despite his size and despite his athleticism and explosiveness and speed, I think that he's still pretty raw. And I think he's still pretty unproven in some of the key kind of abilities you have to show off as a true strong safety that plays in the box all the time. I don't think he does a great job taking on blocks. I actually know his run diagnostics are super slow, and it gives up extra yards because of that. I think that he's more suited to play nickel corner or free safety right away in the National Football League, which is not what the Washington Commanders would be asking him to do. They'd be asking him to do what Jeremy Chinn did, and that was to play in the box. That was to be almost like a hybrid linebacker. And in my opinion, Nick Emmanwori's film does not show a player that's ready for that type of role. So I would want somebody that's ready to play right away, because you look at the safety room right now. You got Quan Martin, who is a bona fide starter at free safety for you, and then you ended up signing Will Harris in free agency, who isn't exactly a true strong safety. He's more of a nickel kind of chess piece type of player that you move around. So that tells me that the Commanders want to get a starting level player at strong safety in the NFL draft. And the good news is there's plenty of good strong safety options that I think have a chance to be able to play day one as the starting strong safety for the Washington Commanders if they end up taking him on day 2 or day 3. Take a look at some of my favorite names. I think Xavier Watts would be a perfect fit for what the Washington Commanders want to do. Same thing with Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. Sebastian Castro doesn't have the best physical profile, but he's very smart. I think that I would trust him on the field day one for the Washington Commanders. Same thing with Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. And then I really like Jonas Sanker out of Virginia. Super versatile type of player. Great run defender. Can be your starting strong safety right away. And then Jalen Reed, another safety out of Penn State. Kind of a bigger body, over 210 pounds, that I think could play strong safety for you if you asked him to do it right away. So before we get into my final crash out candidate here for the Washington Commanders in round one, Spam that thumbs up icon if for more Commanders draft content all throughout the draft season. We got 2 weeks left to go here on this channel before the big day in Green Bay. So click that thumbs up icon if you want more draft content in the days leading up to the NFL draft. Then my final player here, where I would not be very happy if the Washington Commanders ended up taking this player at number 29, but it is somebody that's kind of being projected towards the end of the first round, and there are some whispers that the Commanders might be looking to upgrade from Brian Robinson Jr. as their number 1 running back. And the player I'm going to be talking about here is Travion Henderson, where, some people I really respect, like Benjamin Albright, for example, he says he would be shocked if Henderson doesn't go in round 1 this year. All right, and, I think that Washington, in my personal opinion, even if they want to upgrade the running back position, they shouldn't address that position in round 1 because, this offense revolves around Jaden Daniels, plain and simply, all right? Like, you don't need a star-level running back here in Washington because you have a star-level quarterback that is the center of the offense. Being okay at running back is perfectly fine with me, all right? Brian Robinson Jr. is perfectly serviceable as a starting running back, and when you pair him up with Austin Eckler, he's pretty darn good, all right? He is somebody that I think, he's still got some decent explosiveness. He's certainly lost a step from the days where he was a star running back, but I think that running back duo is perfectly fine, and I like Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Jerry McNichols as your backup options in the running back room. And honestly, Washington doesn't need a star running back. Like I said, man, you got Jaden Daniels, you've got Debo, and you got Terry McLaurin, and you're probably going to add another receiver at some point during the draft. Like, the star of this offense is the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who can beat you with his arm and can beat you with his legs. And because you have that great extension of the run game, I don't think you necessarily need to invest a first-round pick on a type of running back prospect here in Travion Henderson. And, I think that he's the type of guy that has a lot of hype around him right now, and he has a lot of star upside. He has incredible explosiveness, all right? Like, his ability to get to top speed, the acceleration is world-class, and then he's got great long speed to hit home runs. But in my opinion, the contact balance isn't all that great, so he doesn't break a lot of tackles, and then he doesn't have great vision. So, there's multiple times on that Ohio State film where I'm watching Henderson play, and it's like, well, if you go down this lane right here, buddy, it's a touchdown. Instead, he goes right into, an oncoming defender, and it's just super frustrating to watch because he leaves so many yards on the field. So even though his upside is through the roof, I don't think he's a slam dunk. And I think if you're taking a running back in round 1, he's got to be a slam dunk prospect like Ashton Genty or Amarian Hampton, for example. I don't see that in Travion Henderson. At least not on his Ohio State film. He certainly has a ton of upside. But as we talked about, I don't think the Commanders need to make this investment in a quote-unquote star running back on day 1 because Jaden Daniels helps out their run game. And, of course, the star of the show is the passing game, all right? So I think that if you want to get a running back, that's perfectly fine. Austin Eckler is getting a little bit older, all right? If you want to get somebody for the future to replace his role as the number 2 running back or maybe even the future number 1 running back, I think you can get a guy on day 3 that I really like. So you take a look at the day 3 running backs that I personally like for the Washington Commanders this year. And by the way, all the numbers that you see on screen is where these players rank on the consensus big board. So this is compiling up all the biggest big boards, ESPN, PFF, all the different big boards that are out there, and they average them to see where these players line up. So RJ Harvey out of UCF is currently ranked 121st. I think he has a chance to be a star running back in this league, and right now the consensus big board says you can get him in round 4. Damian Martinez, somebody I love watching on film. He's a complete bruiser with a little bit of speed. Really like him as well. Bashal Tutin, the guy that ran the fastest 40 time of any running back in this year's class. He's got a little bit of a fumble issue, but he's extremely explosive. Devin Neal has some of the best instincts out of anybody in this class, his ability to know where his blockers are and use space effectively. He's not the most athletically gifted, but he's a damn good football player. Jaden Blue, really, really fast scat back, receiving back type. Same thing with Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. I really like Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn, a really, really explosive player. And then Lan Larison is somebody to keep your eye on out of UC Davis, currently ranked 468th on the consensus big board, but this guy can play. Just look him up on YouTube if you haven't already, man. This guy's highlights is something to behold. Obviously a lower level of competition, but I think he's got the athleticism to play in the National Football League and the playmaking chops to be a potential steal in this year's class. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Which day 3 running back would you like to see the Washington Commanders take this year? For me personally, if you can get R.J. Harvey or if you can get Jaden Blue or Devin Neal, any of the guys that I had on my list, guys, I would be thrilled to get on day 3. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we've got more Commanders content coming your way as we gear up for the 2025 NFL Draft. All right. First segment in the books here, Mr. Reed. And we are now going to be going to our mock draft here. So coming up next is my Commanders mock draft 6.0. I'm trading down again. Last week I traded down for the Commanders. This week I'm trading down once again, this time with a different football team. Might be a little bit surprised to see the team that I trade down with today, though. So 6.0 version coming up here in just a second. But just a quick reminder here, guys, that we have a mailbag coming up after this segment, and we want you guys to get your questions in. We got 127 people watching live right now. Please, please, please get your questions down there in the live chat room right now. Use hashtag Commanders and then put your question in the live chat. So, for example, you guys say hashtag Commanders. Will the Commanders trade for TJ Watt? All right, and I'll answer that question on the mailbag for you guys. All right, so hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat, or if you want to guarantee that your question gets on the show today, you can super chat any dollar amount, $1, $2, $5, $10. Doesn't matter. If you super chat, you get your question on the live mailbag coming up here in just a few short moments. And we do have a couple super chat promotions. Of course, our producer today, Mr. Reed, is an Eagles fan. And if we get to $100 in super chats today, so all it takes is one person to put in 100. It could take 2 people to alley-oop a 50. Whatever you guys want to do. If we can get to 100, producer Reed will have to chug a boot on today's live stream. And then if we can get to just half of that, if we can get to 50, we will add 15 minutes at the end of the live show to talk Commanders football with all of you guys. So don't forget, get your questions in, get those super chats in. Every dollar, accumulates to help us get to that $50 and $100 goals that we have today. And if we can hit those, that would be absolutely fantastic. So appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you get your questions in so that I can address your comments. I can address your questions on the mailbag here coming up in about 15 minutes or so. So without further ado here, I'm going to hydrate. There we go. And now it's time to reveal my latest 7-round Washington Commanders mock draft, which is coming at you guys right now. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today I got my latest 7-round Commanders mock draft. It is my 6.0 version of this mock draft here, and we are getting very, very close to the big day in Green Bay. We're less than 2 weeks away now from the start of the 2025 NFL Draft. Just got a couple more of these mocks left to go, of course, before my final mock draft, which comes out on draft day. So before we get into the content today, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you guys want another mock draft next week. If we can get another 500 likes on this week's mock draft, I will come out next week with yet another mock on this channel. Now, if you guys haven't been keeping up with all of our previous mocks from this offseason, my rule this year, guys, is I'm not repeating players from previous mocks until I get to my final mock draft, all right? So the reason for this is I want to put it in front of you guys as many draft prospects as I can in front of you, all right? As many players that I think would be good fits for the Washington Commanders and going over different scenarios. I don't want to keep throwing the same players at you guys because then it gets redundant and it's not as fun, all right? So all these players today will be players I have not taken in any Commanders mock draft to this point. So without further ado, let's get into it. And hold on here, guys. Hold on. I'm getting a call, and it's Marshall Green from Giants Now by Chat Sports, and he is offering me an opportunity to move down and out of the first round, but he's offering me an additional mid-round draft pick in order to do so. So here in this trade down scenario, the Giants would be able to move up and take a quarterback that they like, get an additional year on his rookie contract with the 5th-year option because it's a first-round pick. And the Commanders move down to pick number 34, which is the second pick in the second round, and they also get an additional 4th-round pick so that they can recover some of these mid-round draft picks that they traded away for guys like Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel during the offseason. So I will take that call and I will accept it. And with the 34th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft in round 2, I'm going to take Donovan Ezeraku, the edge out of Boston College. Now, I actually think there's a chance Ezeraku makes it this far in the NFL Draft this year, and I just love his ability to attack the passer, all right, the quarterback. I love his ability to win both with speed and with finesse. He's got a bunch of different hand-fighting moves that he can win with. He's a really, really smart pass rusher, knows what move to deploy at the right time, which is something that's really, really important in the National Football League. And in my opinion, guys, Washington needs to add a pure pass rusher, whether that's trading for Trey Hendrickson before the NFL Draft even starts. I'd be willing to give up my first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, by the way, but if that's not a possibility, then your focus needs to shift on somebody that can help this defensive line get after quarterbacks. Because right now, the edge rushers that are currently on the roster are guys that are more built to play more of a run-stuffing kind of role. Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell, Dietrich Wise, these are bigger type of edge rushers, defensive end types that are really good at anchoring. They're really good at setting the edge. They're good at doing all those things to stop opposing running backs, but they don't really do a whole lot in terms of getting after quarterbacks. And you have 10.5 sacks last year from your number one pass rusher on the edge and Dante Fowler Jr. to replace after he goes back to the Dallas Cowboys. So I think that this is a huge need that the Commanders need to address. And last year, Ezeraku had 16.5 sacks in 2024. That is a lot of production for an edge rusher in college football, especially because they don't play as many games here in the NFL. 16.5 sacks is over a sack a game for Ezeraku. So he wins in a lot of different ways. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a top 10, true alpha type at the position, but I know he can help this defense win and help get after quarterbacks and help this team win football games in 2025. So if he's here at number 34, and I think there's a chance he could be, I think this could be a slam dunk pick for the Washington Commanders to kick off their NFL Draft. And to be honest here, guys, if I have the choice between Ezeraku, who's a true pass rusher, versus more run-defending type of edge rushers like Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart, even in the first round, I would rather take Ezeraku at number 29 than take guys like Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart, because I think that the need for a true pass rusher on the edge here in Washington is that important. I think Ezeraku brings that on day one for this football team. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Would you be happy if the Commanders traded down and out of the first round and then took Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College with the 34th overall pick? Give me a yes or no down there in the comment section. And let me know what you guys think for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by going up to today's pinned comment and giving me a yes or a no. In round 2 here, I'm going to have the Washington Commanders take Jonah Savanaia. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Probably not. Probably butchering it. But he's a guard out of Arizona. So I got Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia, not Savanaia. I actually changed my mind in the middle of scripting this. So sorry about that. But I'm taking I am taking Wyatt Milam, guard out of West Virginia. Now Milam played offensive tackle for the Mountaineers this past year, played left tackle for them, but I think that he is much more suited to be a guard at the National Football League level. I think he's going to make that transition, and I think that the Washington Commanders can certainly use somebody to convert to left guard here, and there we go. Mr. Reed, our producer, got that figured out for us. So it's Wyatt Milam, who the Washington Commanders have actually shown a lot of interest in during the draft process, by the way. He had a top 30 visit. They brought him in. They talked with him at the NFL Combine as well. And, pretty much, guys, priority number one with the Washington Commanders moving forward is to protect Jayden Daniels. Protect your franchise quarterback, all right? Last year, I don't think they did necessarily a fantastic job of doing that. Of course, that's why they went out and got Laramie Tunsil this offseason. And, I think that they need help along the interior still of this offensive line, because you got guys like Nick Allegretti, who started for this team last year, but I thought really underwhelmed. Sam Cosmi, it looks like he's going to be missing time during the season as well. They're going to be trying Brandon Coleman out at right tackle. So I think that your tackle positions, at least for now, are kind of squared away. I think they're going to put Andrew Wiley over at right guard while Cosmi recovers from his injury. And, if you can get a guy like Milam, who I think can be a straight-up upgrade from Nick Allegretti along this offensive line, that's something I'm willing to do. Milam is a really, really good pass protector, especially from the guard spot. He actually was asked to take reps from the guard position at left guard during the Senior Bowl, and he was absolutely fantastic. So I think he can start for the Washington Commanders at left guard from day one, and I think that he's going to be probably a round 2 pick in this year's NFL draft class. So I think, making sure that Jaden Daniels is protected has got to be priority number 1 for this entire franchise. You have an opportunity to upgrade at left guard here in round 2. That is something that I want to do. Now, coming up here on this week's mock draft here on the Commanders Report, Day 3 picks. Of course, we have that extra 4th-round pick from the New York Giants coming up here after today's sponsor read. And today, our sponsor is Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone. You can download the Prize Picks app for free today and get started with over 10 million members that have already signed up. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. And you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts like player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Guys, it's super easy to play on Prize Picks as well. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And it could be for any sport that you want. When football gets going again, you got baseball going on right now. Basketball playoffs are coming up here really quickly. You can even go stock car racing on Prize Picks as well. All right, so you guys can get it going right now. Get your first projection in. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so here in round 4, and, this is going to be something where I'm kind of banking on a little bit of a slide from Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State, because this guy's an absolute physical freak, all right? And there's a lot of people that project Porter to go in round 2 and at the very earliest round 3, but because Porter needs so much development, all right? Like, he played in a very limited role at Iowa State. He really only played in man coverage, and, he's really good at that, and he's got an incredible physical profile. But the fact that he needs development and he's not going to be able to really play right away, I think gives other cornerbacks an opportunity to go ahead of him and the potential for him to slide to the Washington Commanders here at the top of round 4. You take a look at his physical profile. I mean, it's exactly what you look for, man. He's got long arms. He's tall. He runs a 4.3. I mean, this guy is so fast, so quick, so explosive. And then you pair that with the arm length at over 33 inches for a corner, which is absolutely phenomenal. Almost a perfect 10 out of 10 relative athletic score. And listen, man, there's certainly a possibility that a team, maybe even the Commanders, take a shot on these tools in round 2. But I think that if he does get here to round 4, I don't think Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn could run that card up faster because I think that they love projects like this. They like to take these guys that are very toolsy but maybe a little bit raw coming out of college and then turning them into absolute ball hawks in the league. Just look at what they did with Trayvon Diggs with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, these two guys know how to work with defensive backs and turn them into great players. I think that they feel like they could do the same thing with Darian Porter to make him their future number 1 cornerback, even though he probably wouldn't play in year 1 for this football team. And, I think that this is a position where you can afford to get a developmental player and be patient with him, all right? You did bring in Jonathan Jones on a short-term deal, so you can go out and play him as your week 1 starter. And, if he stinks, then it's like, all right, Darian, you got an opportunity to prove yourself here later in the season. Of course, you always have the option of going back to Mike Samerstroll on the outside and putting Noah Igbenogany back in a full-time role in the slot if, in case of an emergency there. But I think if you get a guy like Darian Porter, you're setting yourself up to potentially get a true number 1 corner for the future here. And if he does slide here all the way to number 105, which I think might be a little bit unlikely, but I still think is possible, which is why I've put him here in this week's mock draft at 105. But I think it could be a hell of a pick for the Washington Commanders in this year's NFL draft. Then at 128, I'm going to take another player in the secondary. I'm going to take Jonas Sanker, safety out of Virginia, somebody that is a really, really good and really versatile player that's really good against the run. And right now, the Washington Commanders, in my opinion, need somebody that they can trust to play the quote-unquote Jeremy Chin role, where he can go in there and he can be a reliable run defender in the box. And I think that his size and versatility is what really draws me to him. He can play in the slot if you need him to as well. I think he plays with really, really good instincts. And, he's definitely got the size too. He's over 210 pounds. So I like what Sanker brings to the table. And I would be thrilled if the Washington Commanders can get him in round 4. Then we go all the way to round 6 here at pick 205, where I'm going to take a wide receiver, Kobe Hudson, one of my favorite receivers in this entire class, because I love his route running. Now, he's not going to be a true vertical threat, and he's not going to be a true number 1 or anything like that, because he doesn't have the physical profile to be able to do that. But what he is that he is a technician as a route runner. I mean, he's able to create separation, and even for somebody that isn't all that fast and he's not a burner, because of the way he runs routes and he gets people to kind of go for his fakes and all the different things that he does as a route runner, he can actually separate down the field as well. So I think, right now the consensus big board has him at 212th overall, and I think that he's one of the best pure route runners in the entire class. So this would be an absolute steal at pick 205. That's within the margins for the consensus big board here. And I think that if you add him alongside Terry McLaurin, who's a true alpha, and Deebo Samuel, who's a true Swiss Army knife chess piece, I think that would be an awesome combination and an awesome trio for the Washington Commanders to roll out there. And then you still got guys like Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey that can still help out the room as well. Then my final pick here in round 7, I got a running back out of UC Davis, my man, Lan Larison. And this guy's just a playmaker, man. And this is kind of like the Julian Edelman type of pick for me, where it's like, this guy can play football. I don't know exactly where he's going to play. We can try him out at running back, but he's got great receiving chops as well. He's great after the catch. He's got legitimate speed that I think can survive at the NFL level. And, I think that Larison can play, plain and simply. And if you draft him, you find a spot where he works, whether that's slot wide receiver, whether that's running back, whether that's just a chess piece weapon that you move all over the formation, he's going to find a home, man. He's a good football player. And I think that this is somebody that I want to take a chance on if I am the Washington Commanders. There's also a chance he becomes a UDFA, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams that want to add him as a UDFA, so I don't want to run the risk of going to the open market after the draft and he ends up going elsewhere. So I take him here in round 7. So here's my 6.0 7-round Commanders mock draft haul, where I've got Donovan Ezeraku at the top of round 2 after the trade down, then Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia to be our new starting left guard. Got Darian Porter to be somebody that's a developmental corner on the outside. Jonas Sanker to be your new strong safety. Kobe Hudson to be a nice piece in the rotation at wide receiver. And then Lan Larison as somebody that will figure out where to put him once we get him in our building. So grade my mock draft here, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for this week's mock draft here on the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate you guys watching to the very end of all of our videos. And until next time, guys, go raise some hail. All right. So coming up here, we got our mailbag. So if you haven't already, hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat room to get some questions on today's program. How are we doing on questions here, Reed? See how many questions we got. We got over 100 people watching right now, so that's really good. 2 questions. All right, here's what I'm going to say. Put a timer on for 5 minutes. If we don't have 8 questions at the end of the 5-minute shot clock, we're just going to end the show. All right, if you guys don't have questions, I'm not going to answer them. All right, so you guys can put hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get on the mailbag today. And we will have a 5-minute shot clock here. You guys have 5 minutes to get your questions in. Okay, so if you want the show to keep going, we need to get 6 more questions with hashtag Commanders down there in the comments section. All right, so Reed's going to put up our shot clock here. There it is. Start it whenever you're ready. You got 5 minutes to put your questions in. And if we can get 6 more questions, we have 8 questions total, we will do the mailbag today. If not, we won't do the mailbag, and I'll do some sort of segment tomorrow to make up for it. So I see Kieran got one in there, and that's a good question to Oh, Kieran, it has to be hashtag Commanders, no space. Don't go hashtag space Commanders. Just hashtag Commanders, just like it's shown on screen here. No space. No space between the hashtag and the Commanders.
Not doing that because we don't like you. It's because our software won't pick it up, and I won't be able to see it on screen, and we won't be able to put it on.
Jaden Sports says, "Can you ask 2 questions? Because I already asked one." Yeah, you can answer. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Let's make sure you guys get those questions in. JG coming in with a question. And now we move forward.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What is the NFC East's each team? What's their record 2025?
Oh, I mean, we don't have all the info.
Start with Commanders.
Commanders, I'd say 13 wins.
How about no record, just how many wins?
13 wins for the Commanders, 12 wins for the Eagles. Fuck the Eagles. Then I'll go 8 wins for the Cowboys. Fuck it, 6 wins for the Cowboys. Yeah. Then I'll go 6 wins for the Giants.
Really? 6 wins. Where are the 6 wins coming from?
Well, I think Russell Wilson can still spin it a little bit.
Okay.
I like Malik Neighbors a lot. I think their offensive line's getting better. Defense is going to be really good.
Their defense is going to be good.
Defense is pretty good. So, I like Brian Dable as a play caller. So 5-6 wins for the Giants,
Who do you think the Giants are taking in the draft?
I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do in the draft for sure. It looks like we got plenty of questions coming in, so we're definitely getting into our mailbag here momentarily. You guys got 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get your questions in. But to answer your question is what the Giants do, I think they really want to take Travis Hunter.
Really?
I think that's their guy. I think they really want Travis Hunter, and then they would love to trade back into the first for Shedeur Sanders and pair those guys back up.
So something I'm thinking, a lot of the people, the draft analysts, are now saying that the Browns are going to take Travis Hunter.
Yep.
If he goes, what happens to the Giants? Are they trading back?
I mean, they might just go BPA. I know our Giants host, Marshall Green, wants them to take Abdul Carter just because it's like best player available. Just take the best player. I saw an interesting trade idea where the 49ers would trade up for Abdul Carter, and then the Giants would move down to number 11 and then take Shedeur there.
Interesting.
Which I don't hate. Like, I don't hate the idea for New York. If they like Shedeur, and you feel like you can move down a few spots and still get him, which I think they would. Like, for example, I think a trade to watch out for at number 3 is with the Carolina Panthers because they need an edge rusher really badly, and Abdul Carter would be a legitimate number 1 for them right away. Now, they might really like Mike Green as well. I really like Mike Green, so maybe they feel like the gap between Carter and Green is not that high, and they feel like trading up is not worth it because you're going to have to give up a lot to move up from 8 to 3 for a non-quarterback. But I could see that being the case where if the Giants feel good about Brian Burns and Thibodeau, and they don't want to take Carter, and they want Shedeur Sanders, I mean, that's right in front of the Saints at 9. It makes a lot of sense if that ends up being the case. So you got less than a minute left to get your questions in. And we got some good ones, says producer Reed. So we'll get into the questions here in 30 seconds. Answer your questions, and then we'll finish up today's show after the mailbag. What is this? Oh, never mind. Oh, wait, is this real? Or is this a Jets photo? Apparently, 49ers DC Robert Saleh is bringing over his all gas, no brakes logo that he had with the Jets to the 49ers. I mean, just let it go, man. Let it go. What's what? Oh, I don't know. What's wrong with Isaiah Bond?
It's Ian Rappaport said, a statement from Isaiah Bond. Regarding the accusation made against me, I would appreciate the time and opportunity to defend myself and prove the claims made patently false.
Oh, so was there like a domestic
kind
of
former
issue?
Texas wide receiver and current NFL draft prospect Isaiah Bond turned himself into Frisco, Texas police this morning for a matter related to an outstanding warrant for sexual assault.
Oh. So
He
obviously,
posted bond and was English, subsequently
oh,
released.
okay. I don't have any comment on that right now, but it sounds like Bond was somebody that's fallen in the draft process. This way, he's definitely going to be falling even more. All right, let's get it going. Our mailbag for the week is coming at you guys right now. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions and kept this show alive. So whenever producer Reed is ready to get things going here, we will dive into the mailbag. All right, here we go. Let's get into it right now. The latest Commanders Report mailbag is coming at you guys right now. Welcome into the Commanders Report mailbag. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today it's my favorite segment of the week. I get to take your guys' questions on the Washington Commanders, and instead of me guessing what you want me to talk about, you get to tell me directly what topics you want me to talk about on today's show. So really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most inclusive and most extensive Commanders content creator here on YouTube. We really do appreciate all of your guys' support. So make sure you click that subscribe button and join us every week on Wednesday for our mailbags here, our Q&A portions here on the Commanders Report. First question coming in from Jaden Sports. Says, Commanders, if we trade B-Rob, what pick do you think we would get for him, and how would you plan a scheme after him? Get one premier back or have a duo running back room? If you trade away Brian Robinson Jr., then it obviously creates a big hole in the running back room, especially because, Austin Eckler has 1, maybe 2 years left in him. I'm guessing probably 1. I don't know if you believe in Chris Rodriguez Jr. or Jeremy McNichols to really step in line in terms of, next guy up in that room. So you probably have to take a running back within sometime during the NFL draft. The good thing about this year's NFL draft, though, guys, is that you can really wait to take a good running back, all right? Like, you could get R.J. Harvey in the 4th round right now, according to the consensus big board, and I love R.J. Harvey. You can get a guy like Bashal Tootin or Damian Martinez out of Miami. Like, there's a lot of really good running backs that you can get without having to spend your 1st or your 2nd or even your 3rd round pick on. So obviously the Commanders have a few needs. They need to get a pass rushing specialist of some sort at edge. They need to get a safety. It'd be nice to get kind of a developmental kind of guy at corner. Receiver, getting another receiver piece would be nice. But if you do trade B-Rob, you get somebody to come in here. And probably the guy that I would want is somebody that can run an inside zone / duo type of system. That can also do a little bit of power stuff, all right? Like, I think that B-Rob is perfectly adequate. So, personally, if I'm the Commanders, I'm just keeping B-Rob as my number 1 running back. Probably not giving him a big new contract or anything like that when his contract comes up. But I think that B-Rob is perfectly fine as this team's number 1 running back because this offense does revolve around Jaden Daniels. Then we got Jasmine Gray says, I have a question for you, Jack. Is the Washington Commanders will stay at number 29 or trade down from the number 29 spot of the NFL draft? Jasmine, I think that if there's an opportunity to trade down, I think I would do it because, you traded a lot of your mid-round picks this year for Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, and right now you only have 5 picks at your disposal. So if you can trade down with somebody like the Cleveland Browns at 33 or even the New York Giants at number 34, you guys can take a look at this trade idea that we've put on the show before where you trade down to 34, you get an additional 4th round pick. By the way, that 4th round pick could be your wide or could be your running back to replace B-Rob with. Who knows? So, I think that there's a lot of options at your disposal. Now, if a guy like Mike Green or James Pierce Jr. gets on your doorstep there and you really like that player, I think you're sticking and picking. But if there isn't a player that you absolutely love at number 29 and you would like to get an additional middle round pick, I think that if there's opportunities to trade out of the 1st round, I think that's something the Commanders should consider, especially, like I said, if you get a late day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick. Then you got one from Shannon here. It says, everyone was so willing to trade at first for Miles, then Trey, etc. Why not trade next year's 2nd for more picks this year? Is that supposed to be 1st or 2nd? I can't tell because there's a 2, but there's an ST at the end. This is an extra pick in the 30 to 50 range. is huge with this class. I think this is kind of similar to how, trading down would be good, or why not next year's. I'm confused by this question, Shannon. Are you saying trade a future draft pick for an edge rusher? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind that, but these teams are going to want draft picks in this year's draft class. All right, they want to replace the players that they're losing. Excuse me, with players in the draft. So I don't know how effective that strategy would necessarily be there, Sharon, but that's certainly something that I would consider if it's on the table. We got another question coming in here from Kieran. It says, are you scared of James Pierce Jr.'s off-field issues? I'm not necessarily scared of it. You trust your area scouts, what they have to say about the kind of character the guy has. And, there are some whispers and all this different stuff about Pierce. But at the end of the day, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, they're going to listen to their staff. They're going to listen to the recommendations that their scouts give to them. And if there are concerns, then, they won't consider them. But if they like the player, if they've met with him, if they've addressed the concerns with him, and they feel like he can be a good member of this organization, and he somehow falls to their pick at number 29, I mean, this guy is a top 3 edge rusher in this class on film, in my opinion. I love his film. Super explosive at 245 pounds, has a lot more power than you would think from kind of quote-unquote undersized edge rusher. So I really like his profile, man, and if everything checks out character-wise, I think that he's absolutely somebody the Commanders should consider if he's there at 29. We got one from Billy Everett here. It says, Jack, do you think the Madden connection will make an impact this season? I don't know what this question refers to. So, Billy, if you have a different question or if you want to rephrase that, let us know in the chat. And we'll go to Merle here. A new question says, how far back should Washington trade back if they do? Merle, I think that as long as you're getting an additional pick that you like, as far as you really want to go, it depends on how their board stacks up. Like if you have a player that you really like, that you want to make sure that you get, then maybe you just trade down to like 33 or 34. But if the board is kind of falling in a way where you're fine trading down to like the low 40s, even if it means you get an additional day 2 pick, I think that's something that the Washington Commanders might consider. But like I said, it completely depends how their board shakes out, what players they like, what positions they want to prioritize early on in the NFL draft. So there's no real way I can truly answer this because I'm not in the war room with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. But I think that, I wouldn't look for them to trade down too far. I would be kind of shocked if they went down past the 40th pick. All right, so that's probably what I'll tell you right there, Merle. Before we get to the rest of your questions on this week's Commanders Report mailbag, let's have word from our sponsor today at Game Time. And recently, producer Joey and myself took a trip over to Globe Life Park in Arlington to watch the Texas Rangers and Jacob deGrom take on the Boston Red Sox in a game where the Texas Rangers actually ended up winning. And thanks to Game Time, we were able to save money on those tickets so we could splurge a little bit more at the game itself. We had a really great time, and Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports and makes getting tickets to any event faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can go watch the Washington Nationals play this season at beautiful Nationals Park to take in the beauty of the game while not breaking the bank on those great seats all over the ballpark. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports. It's one word, all caps, ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ChatSports. It's one word, all caps, ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, our next question coming in here from Mickey. Says, Ja'Cory Brooks is usually there in the 7th when I play around with the mock drafts. I think he might be good for a punt return specialist. I mean, sure. I will say, as somebody that's watched a lot of Tyler Shuck film, Ja'Cory Brooks was his number 1 receiver. So, he was the best receiver at Louisville. Congratulations. It was one of the worst wide receiver cores in the entire college football Division I. It's so bad. But Ja'Cory's a decent player. He can be a special teams player for you, but honestly, like, you got Luke McCaffrey, you got Austin Eckler. Like, I don't really know if this team really needs another special teams type of player in that regard. I guess you can think about it. 7th round pick doesn't really matter all that much. 7th round picks have such a low hit rate where you can kind of just play around with the different players that you want to take there. But Brooks is a player that does have some skills, and I wouldn't necessarily hate it if they ended up getting him in round 7. Then we got one from JG, says, do you see a significant increased use of Sinnott and McCaffrey in 2025? It depends on their development. I mean, if they earn it, absolutely. All right, like if Sinnott becomes the type of route running type of threat that he had the potential to become coming out of Kansas State last year, and he kind of usurps Zach Ertz, then I think absolutely it's a possibility for the Washington Commanders in 2025. And then when it comes to the wide receiver room, you look at Luke McCaffrey, and he also needs to prove himself because you got Terry McLaurin, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Noah Brown. And they might even add another receiver in the draft. So he's got some people on the depth chart that he's going to have to compete for playing time with. But he certainly was somebody that this team was high on when they drafted him on day 2 of the draft last year. And, he certainly is going to have an opportunity to prove himself. I think he showed some really good stuff after the catch. He really proved himself as a special teams asset last year as well. And, it seems like he and Jaden Daniels really like each other and have built a little bit of chemistry with each other. So I'm really rooting for McCaffrey and Sinnott, these 2 rookies that they took with kind of big hopes for future seasons. So it's going to come down to their development and just how good they're able to get during the offseason. But if they take the proper steps, they certainly invested enough draft capital in them to give them every opportunity to get increased production and increased playing time next season. Then we got one here from Caesar Holmes. Says, Nick Emmanwori reminds me of Sean Taylor. Would love to get him. Thoughts? I'll tell you this, man. He's got a lot of development to go before he's Sean Taylor, because Sean Taylor is, he's one of the best safeties, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. All right, flying around, doing all the huge hitter. Emmanwori's got the physical profile to be as good as he wants to be. But right now, his run diagnostics in the run game are terrible. It takes a long time to process information, all right, which is a big, big red flag. He's also not very good at taking on blocks. And for a guy as strong and as big as he is, that's not exactly ideal for somebody that would be coming in here to be a box safety. I think that he's got a long way to go, man. And I think he's more comfortable playing in the slot or as a deep safety. He played mostly free safety at South Carolina, and he's got the speed to play that. But that's not the role the Commanders would be asking of him. They'd be asking him to play Jeremy Chinn's box safety role, the Cam Chancellor role, so to speak. And I just don't know if I see that type of player on his film. He certainly has the physical capability to become that type of player. But I think, if you're going to transition him to more of a permanent strong safety, box safety type of role, you're going to have to develop him, and you're going to have to be patient with him, all right? And if they start him at strong safety next year, I almost guarantee you there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems with his run defense, and that's just something you're going to have to live with if you take him and you play him from year 1. Then we got one from Quark. Says, how do you feel about the Commies taking someone like Josh Connerly, Kelvin Banks, or another great O-line prospect if they fall to us at 29? I'll say this. I think that their tackle situation is kind of squared away, at least for now. I think that they like Tunsil, and he's obviously under contract for multiple seasons, so you don't need to get a future replacement in the building or anything like that. And then you got Brandon Coleman, who they're going to try at right tackle for the season. They spent a relatively high pick on him last year, so I'm assuming they're going to give him every opportunity. The position that I think that there's a chance that they could take is they could take an offensive lineman to start at left guard, whether that's Gray Zabel, who could be an excellent left guard for this football team on day 1, Calvin Banks, who a lot of people think is going to be a guard because of his lack of his arm length. Banks would be an incredible guard right away, by the way, guys. Like, he could be a Pro Bowl guard year 1, in my opinion. So, if Banks or Gray Zabel is there at number 29, and like all the edge rushers that you like are off the board, I think that Kelvin Banks or Gray Zabel, if one of those guys is still available, is kind of a dark horse name to watch out for for the Washington Commanders because obviously priority number one is protecting Jaden Daniels. I think Nick Allegretti is certainly a spot there at left guard that could be replaced. Or upgraded, I should say. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most interactive Commanders community here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all the questions on today's edition of the Commanders Report Mailbag. We got more Commanders content coming your way here as we gear up for the 2025 NFL Draft, which is just days away at this point. So make sure you click that subscribe button for free, extensive, in-depth Commanders coverage for free every single day. All right. That is the end of today's show. Big shout out to producer Reed for stepping in for producer Joey today. Even though he's an Eagles fan, we appreciate him. He gets off the hook today without having to drink a boot. But you know, it's always good having this little friendly rivalry here, you know. All right, that's going to be it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end. Of course, we'll be back next week with another Commanders Report live show as we get closer and closer and closer to the NFL Draft in Green Bay here. Just 2 weeks away, man. It's getting here fast. So I'm really excited about it, man. We got more great content coming your way tomorrow and over the weekend. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, go raise some hail.